We are diving in. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Core Volunteer Training, a program created to help you, our supporters, particularly new or newer volunteers, connect with each other around your larger goals for climate advocacy. So we really want to empower you to be able to achieve what you want to achieve in the climate space. And this week we are talking about chapter development basics. It's a brand new training. It's a brand new core volunteer training. So we're super excited. I am super psyched that I get to present this information to y'all tonight. I am Tamara Staten. If you don't know me, I am CCL's Education and Resilience Coordinator. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm going to introduce our speakers tonight. You only get me live. I'm the only one who gets to talk to you live, but these other three get to, they have recorded videos for us to be able to watch. So my name, like I said, Tamara Staten. I live in Portland, Oregon. I've been with CCL as a volunteer since 2012 when I co-founded the Portland CCL chapter. A couple of years later, I stepped in as regional coordinator for the beautiful Greater Pacific Northwest region, and that is Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Alaska, Hawaii, and count them three Pacific Island territories, Guam, American Samoa, and the Mariana Islands, in case you were wondering. And last year, I was excited to be offered a position on staff, Education and Resilience Coordinator, excited at the opportunity to integrate my background in education and personal development with the climate work I've come to love. So I love being on staff of this fantastic organization. I'm happy to have the opportunity to share with you tonight about chapter development. Like I said, tonight we'll be hearing from these three other fantastic group leaders and state coordinators who are pictured on the screen. Noelle and Bobby are both group leaders in the Greater Pacific Northwest, and Danella is our Oregon State Coordinator and co-led the Portland chapter with me for many years. So let's learn a little bit about you on the call tonight, though. I crafted a little poll for you to play with. Let's see if it actually, if I can find it. Poll number 9, no, poll number, come on, where is it? Wait for it. Hold on a second. I created it. Please say I saved it. This training has been designed to demystify the process of starting, growing, and running a CCL chapter, and to give potential group leaders an overarching understanding of what's involved and what's possible when you begin the journey. So what we're going to be doing tonight is first I'm going to talk about the leadership potential. What is possible in the space of leadership in CCL? Then I'm going to talk about starting a chapter, growing a chapter, running a chapter. I'll throw some Q&A in between those if there are some questions, and then we'll just keep on rocking the party at the end with a Q&A discussion. So thank you, Janifa, for introducing yourself in the chat. I'm enjoying you guys popping your notes into the chat because I get to, it's funny to talk and read at the same time. It's fun. It's a fun little skill. So let's talk about leadership potential. Let's talk about what's possible by diving into chapter leadership in CCL. So one of the ways that Marshall Saunders, our beloved founder, envisioned the success of Citizens Climate Lobby was through the creation of local chapters that span all congressional districts in the United States, and similarly in other countries as well. If you are from another country, please drop that in the chat. I'd love to know that you're here with us this evening. Creating chapters in each district supports participation and communication from local constituents who can then directly influence and create political will for their own member of Congress or similar. The following 3 maps, well, I'm not going to show you actually 3 maps. The map on that you're looking at right now, I should say, depicts a spread of chapters around the United States. And there actually are a couple more maps on the interactive training, the link of which I'm going to share with you later. And the live map can be shared on our chapter page of our CCL website. If Debbie's got fast fingers, she will drop that link into the chat for you. Oh my God, somebody else did. Oh, she did it even before I said it. Nice. I love fast fingers. All right. So in some areas where we have multiple chapters per district, of course, in some areas we naturally do have multiple chapters and multiple chapters per district. And this is beneficial in our ability to diversify our actions. So for individual chapters to focus more specifically on those issues and concerns that are specific to those volunteers, and naturally these members of Congress see that there's an appetite for climate action throughout more of their district. CCL's strength comes from its volunteers, from you all on the line right now. I almost said on the phone, but that's a little bit dated. So there is a vast amount of opportunity and need for leadership in our ranks, and we are deeply grateful to the many volunteers who give so generously of their time. I saw that there's at least one experienced group leader in the room tonight. I think there are two of you at least, right? Debbie, you're a group leader, right? Okay. So thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you to anybody who's even considering leadership or playing leadership in a different role. We are so grateful. When we start chapters as volunteers, we are directly contributing to the increasing realization of effective climate solutions and a livable world. And by assuming this leadership role, you are inspiring action on the part of hundreds, sometimes even thousands of people. While that may feel intimidating at first, I know it did for me, it's an exhilarating feeling when you connect to your deep passion and concern and commitment to effective climate action. So now that you hopefully feel present to the possibility, let's take a look at what's actually involved in getting a chapter started. So there's no right way to start a CCL chapter. With nearly 600 chapters in existence around the world, active chapters, I should say, there are a lot more than that in progress. There are multiple options for getting a chapter going. We believe in giving our leaders and groups the flexibility to meet local needs in the way that works best for them, with support for finding and training the people who step forward into leadership. Because CCL's strategy and core values emphasize good relationships and local empowerment, we have left it to our volunteers in the field to determine the best way to lead their locals. In general, leadership emerges from a combination of who's interested, curious, concerned, available, and trusted by their peers. Individual leadership styles are based upon each volunteer's passion and skill set and experience and interest, and we encourage you to lean into what works best for you. And while there is no one right way, like I said, there's certainly a lot of guidance and support available to anyone thinking about or ready to take on starting a chapter. It can feel overwhelming, like I said, the idea of us starting a new CCL chapter, particularly as a new or newer volunteer, but there are two things to keep in mind in your consideration. Your commitment, concern, and passion are deep enough to support your success. Whatever fears and overwhelm you might be feeling will very likely be replaced by clarity and inspiration with each step you take. So starting a chapter is far from a solo endeavor. Would you agree, Debbie? And I think Linda, you said you're a group leader too, right?
Co-leader.
Co-leader, awesome. And if anybody else is group leader here, let me know, because it's nice to be able to refer you, and I didn't catch all of your comments. So anyway, there are a number of places to embark on this leadership journey with others. And so speaking of co-leadership, let's start there. I definitely felt overwhelmed when I first started thinking about the idea of starting a chapter in Portland in 2012. I was a brand new volunteer. I just heard about the organization, but it was a project that I really wanted to take on. And I was also intimidated because I had heard that I was not the first person in Portland to try to start a chapter. So I thought, oh, how am I supposed to succeed in starting a chapter when that person couldn't? Clearly Portland must not be up for a chapter, and I don't know what I have that they don't. So when I first imagined the idea of starting a chapter, it was clear to me that I wanted to take on the task with someone else, two someones, in fact, in part because of this sense of intimidation that I felt as a new volunteer. 3 of us started the journey toward group leadership and continued to run the chapter together for a few years. And over time, those specific leaders stepped away, but it was always clear to me that I preferred to do this work in partnership. So for the tenure of my time as leader, with the exception of a few years, I was co-leader. And co-leader offers a number of benefits over solo leadership. Feel free to drop those in the chat, Linda. I'd love to see if those align, and Debbie as well. But in some chapters, the leaders divide up the roles to fit their experience and interests. In other chapters, the leaders choose to timeshare the role, dividing up the year and taking full responsibility of the chapter for a particular number of months. Regardless of the division that you choose, it can be helpful to have others to share the leadership, whether that's with an administrative task like keeping records and emailing volunteers, or planning and facilitating the meetings themselves. So in one of our chapters in Washington, 3 leaders have chosen one approach to co-leadership that offers multiple benefits. In the following video that I'm going to share, as long as it as long as it plays, we'll see if the play button works. Bobby Morgan of the Bainbridge Island chapter details their process and shares some of the highlights of this approach.
We have a style of co-leadership that's just very simple. There are 3 of us who share deep commitment to Citizens Climate Lobby and our wonderful, important mission. And so we just decided to take a year and divide it up into 3 sections. So each of us take a 4-month period to be the leader. It works beautifully. We stay connected. It just seemed like a natural that 3 of us who felt some interest in leading the chapter teamed up. And very quickly we came up with this idea of just dividing the year up into 4-month sections. And we've been doing that for a couple of years now, and I have to say it's working really well. It's like we're still very connected. We often show up at group leader meetings, even if it's not our section of the year necessarily to be the leader. So we stay pretty informed. And what I really love about co-leading this way is that it frees us up to take on other tasks, other parts of the 5 levers that we want to pull. And so that we don't ever really get to the point where we feel overwhelmed or burned out. We just take on what we can take on, share this leadership role, and at the same time, each of us 3 leaders, we have other jobs that we do because our chapter is small. So it works really well to share the leadership this way so that we can not get burned out and continue for the long haul if it needs to be the long haul, or if we remain optimistic, the short haul if this coming year turns out to be the year. So we stay connected in this co-leadership model so that we can be ready, willing, and able to activate as many levers as we can for however long we need to do it to get this job done.
And I heard about that style of leadership and I was really, really intrigued. So that's definitely a style that I might try out in the future. What, you silly? I love you, Bobby, but I don't want to hear from you again. Here we go. All right. Some people find that it's helpful to have the support of not only other people, but also a step-by-step framework to starting a chapter. And for those who prefer this approach or simply want to get a better sense of how and what others have done over the years that seems to work well, the Emerging Group Leaders Program is a great opportunity. This is a program of 12 to 14 live weekly calls, recordings of which are posted weekly in the group that you see here on the screen. And sorry for the loud noises outside. I cannot go mute him. Anyway, the Emerging Group Leader Program, they cover a variety of topics to help orient you as group leader. These current calls are currently led by Susan Higgins, who is our CCL Director of Administration, and they are attended by other emerging group leaders who are similarly curious and eager to contribute through leadership. So you can find the Emerging Group Leaders group on CCL Community, and then you can click join, just search Emerging Group Leaders, and it'll come right up. And then you can email Susan at, here, I'll drop this in the chat if you want to contact Susan. And Susan Higgins, there's her address. So let her know if you want to join that group. She can add you to the list. We also suggest that you contact your state or regional coordinator to let them know of your interest. And we're going to talk about those right now, actually. We'll just in a minute. After you graduate from the Emerging Group Leaders Program, you'll work closely with your state or regional coordinator on an ongoing basis to collaborate and get whatever support you need in moving forward next. So in addition to the step-by-step support offered by Susan and the Emerging Group Leaders Program, there are a few other key connections that will likely be helpful for you to make. State coordinators, like I said, are volunteers who have stepped forward into leadership role at the state level to provide support and coordination among CCL groups and volunteers in their state. While most state coordinators have had the experience of group leadership, all of them have the understanding of what is involved in starting, leading, and maintaining a CCL chapter, and can serve as an invaluable resource to potential group leaders as they embark on their leadership journey. If you know the name of your state coordinator, bonus points for you, drop it in the chat right now. I want to see if anybody happens to know the name of their state coordinators. If you don't yet know who your state coordinator is, which might be the case if you are new or newer to CCL, you can access your state coordinator through your regional coordinator. And there is a map. I think Debbie's probably going to pop it into the chat. There's a link that you can get to contact your regional coordinator. If you just type in regional coordinators in the search bar of community, the map and the contact information will come up. So awesome, you guys are on it with some of your state coordinators. Nice, nice, nice. Whoops, hold on, we're not ready for that. I also wanted to just mention regional coordinators. Actually, we're going to talk about regional coordinators in just a minute. So in the following video clip, do you have this one queued up, Debbie? Okay, awesome. So Danella Broad, our Oregon State Coordinator, talks about how she supported Bernard in his process of starting the new chapter in the Columbia River Gorge. The support process can look different from leader to leader, but it can be helpful to hear Danella's experience with Bernard to get an overall sense.
I just set up a weekly meeting to check in with he and another young woman named Lucy, who at that point was into and up for being the co-leader with him. So what I did is I just met with him once a week to go over how it was going, how like refining the roster was going, how phone calling was going, and then we kind of got into a little bit of agenda support. So that's what I did with them, and then at some point Bernard said, I don't need you to meet with me every week. He still calls, and I make a point of picking up the phone whenever I can, kind of directly.
Regional coordinators are staff members who live locally in your region, and like state coordinators, they have the experience and insight needed to advise you on your leadership path as well. They serve as the CCL point people for each state or region throughout the United States. Regional coordinators attend weekly calls and facilitate monthly check-ins with their group leaders to be cooperative and cohesive in our actions around the country. Bonus points again, if you know the name of your regional coordinator, drop that in the chat. Let's see how well you guys know your people. This is who's who in CCL. We all know what's involved in the chapter leadership process, and are happy to support you in conjunction with your state coordinator as they are available. We as regional coordinators, I should say. So while the following points provide an overview of starting a chapter, it's important to remember that not all chapters are started in this way. So number one, learn about the basics of CCL, including the mission, the structure, our values, and the key tenets of the policy, carbon fee and dividend, and the bill, Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act, that we support. Core volunteer training is the perfect way to do this. Even stepping one step back, you could be on the info session or the climate advocacy training. Connect with others who are interested in being part of the chapter. You could run a solo chapter for a long time. It's been done, but it's just not nearly as much fun as being with other people on this journey. So this might be one other person, like I said, it might be 20. Some chapters, Don Adu's chapter, he ran his chapter as a solo chapter for a year, I think. He was very, very patient and tenacious. And then you want to provide some initial training for your chapter volunteers. Historically, the climate advocacy training has been the program for officially starting a chapter, though the new 5 Levers Advocacy Workshop, the FLOW workshop as we call it, would also be a great training option. And then start meeting regularly. For the time being, this will be online, as we are still requesting that all interactions take place virtually, but in the future, you may want to decide to meet in person, whether in someone's home or in a public location like a library meeting, or in a local brewery like we used to do in Portland. When Marshall founded CCL, he gave us a 2-part mission. The first part of the mission is what draws many of us to CCL, to create the political will for climate solutions. The second part of the mission is what gets the job done, by enabling individual breakthroughs in personal and political power. Once we understand the second part of the mission, our work as group leaders begins to flow and make sense, to become easier and more fun. So who's having these breakthroughs? Group leaders, volunteers, staffers, Maybe the guy next door making really loud noises, maybe he'll have a breakthrough. Members of the media, members of the public, just about everyone we touch. So the more people in our group having breakthroughs, the faster we will roll towards our goal of passing carbon, fee, and dividend, which is why we're here. The most powerful and effective way to recruit people to CCL is to let them feel the energy of your experience. Sharing your experience or story with them and relating your own passion with them or to them will really create, if nothing else, a sense of curiosity and intrigue on their part. When we see others thriving, we want that for ourselves as well, right? So here's a little interactive question for you if you're interested in participating. Take a minute to think about what attracted you to CCL. And if you're so inclined, go ahead and share that in the chat, in a phrase, in a word, in a few words. Think of these keywords or phrases that you like about the organization. What do you like about the work, the mission, the people, the goal, the approach? What do you like about all of that? So let's see if there's anything coming in through the chat here. The potential to actually make an impact. That's exactly what drew me to CCL, Laurel, is the policy solution. Like, it's going to start at the top and it's going to trickle down through society. And I don't have to change people, right? Money will change people. That was what I loved about it. Help combat climate change with passionate people. Totally agree. Bipartisanship and bringing in non-traditional environmentalists into the conversation. Let's see. Oh, they're coming in quickly. Seems like a solution that can actually get implemented, and great support from the organization. I love the support part. I was always so impressed that there's a Tuesday night call every single Tuesday for group leaders, with the exception of one now, but works with the market, but still helps consumers. Hands-on experiences like lobbying. Exactly. And Debbie shares the ability to grow and watch others find their personal political power. Yeah, I love all of that too. So once you have these sentences written down for yourself, well, actually, I didn't even say that part. Let's see, hold on, let me check my timing. What I'd love to do is, I'm going to do this because I can, okay? I'm going to give you a minute of silence, and I'm actually going to make it silent. Look, that person is gone, so it's silent. We can have silence. I'm going to give you a minute of silence to write down in 1 or 2 sentences on your own piece of paper what attracts you to CCL. Okay, so I will pause and I will look at my time and I'll be back in a minute. And if you don't want to write that, you can just close your eyes or do whatever you want to do in your own time. And I'll see you in a minute. Okay, like I promised, I'm back. Here's what I wrote. I love the support that I feel from CCL and the feeling that I don't have to be anything that I'm not. I also love the feeling that it's not all up to me to solve. So once you have those sentences written down for yourself, whether you did that now or you want to consider doing that later, I encourage you to practice that. Mark Reynolds loves practicing things in front of the mirror. I'm not such a big fan, but practice it. Practice it with your friends, with your dog, with your cat, with your rat, whatever, so that it rolls off your tongue easily. This is how people will feel your passion, okay? So there's some additional points that you might want to consider as you're talking to people about CCL. You're selling in quotes, right? You're selling an organization. You're not selling a problem. Keep that in mind. Discuss what it is about CCL that makes you volunteer your precious time for us, okay? Focus more on solutions and possibilities than on the threat of climate change. Most people don't want to hear about the threat of climate change, honestly. Our brains, it's too much for our brains. So talk about the passion and about what's possible. Invite people to something, either on the spot or soon thereafter. Invite them to coffee, the intro call, your next meeting, or to come with you to something that you're doing. And keep it short, 1 to 2 sentences. Another example from Madeline Pera, our now president, very exciting. She shared, my name is Madeline and I teach first grade. This is before her presidency, right? But lately, what's even more important to me is doing something about climate change so my students have a strong future. I spend a lot of my free time volunteering with Citizens Climate Lobby because it's been such an effective organization to work with. And then you listen and you validate and you avoid debate. It can be tempting to want to counter points that might be made or to try to convince someone of a particular something. But keep in mind that plants flourish when seeded and tended over time. Patience plays a huge role. So follow-up is such an important part of the recruitment process, but it often gets left out and overlooked. Meaningful conversations get people excited, but that energy fades and gets replaced by other things in your lives. I'm sure most of you can relate to this, right? So following up immediately with a phone call and an opportunity to participate will severely up the chances of their participation, because people will feel and recognize that their participation really makes a difference. Think about it. Do you like it when people want you there, when you feel like people want you there and that they invite you personally and that it matters if you come? My guess is if your video is off, you might be nodding your head, maybe you're shaking your head and you're like, whatever, Tamara, no, I don't like that. But here's an analogy that helps me to consider this. What happens to most vegetable plants if you do nothing with it once you plant it? No sun, no water, no attention. Yeah, exactly, Laurel, exactly. So treat new volunteers like beautiful plants and flowering fruits. Plant the seed, let it root, give them some time, not too much time though, and then continue to add water, bright energy, and attention, just like that sweet little boy is doing on the right. So where do we find all these new and potential volunteers? All over, actually. You go where concerned people already are, to public events, organizational meetings, church events, or you go to their online events, to their presentations, to their things, right? And slowly the world is opening back up. So, but you can also consider friends and family, coworkers, and you can consider potential contacts in your community. You can look at the paper and see who's writing these LTEs and op-eds, because if they care about climate and are willing to write a letter about it, they would probably make a very good CCL volunteer. You can look at community organizations, and you can also check social media. CCL community is also a great place to learn and access additional resources. There are a number of trainings that I will mention. These are also on the interactive training that I'm going to share at the end of tonight's training, but I'll just pop them in here too, in case you're wanting these. So we get one more story, actually. Debbie, do you have this queued up? The following video that we're about to share was recorded by one of our group leaders in Hawaii, Noel Morin, highlighting his experience of being recruited to join CCL and how over time he began to use the same exact process to reach out to other people and organizations and to do the same. So as you're watching, see if you can notice the multitude of ways that recruitment is happening in Noel's story. And if you don't want to use your brain, the points are on the screen, just in case you're curious.
Aloha. Noel Morin. I've been involved with CCL for over 2 years now. I co-lead the Hawaii Island chapter. My journey with CCL began with an introduction by Ron Riley. Ron had joined one of the organizations I lead, the Big Island EV Association. And at some point, we started to host tabling events at our EV shows. Our conversations eventually led me to better understand and appreciate the value of national carbon pricing as a means to accelerate not only the decarbonization of transportation, but also our economy as a whole. I'd say I'm a good organizer and facilitator of change, so I volunteer to take on a number of tasks, from organizing meetings, taking and publishing notes, creating and presenting materials, ramping our marketing efforts, seeking endorsements, and ultimately lobbying. At some point, a co-lead role opened up and I stepped up, and I now partner with a great team to make magic happen. And while there is much to do locally, I recognize the opportunity for various chapters here in Hawaii to organize as a state group. This will allow us to have a more influential voice and also offer efficiencies and economies of scale. To this end, I'm working with local leaders to establish our state level presence. Lastly, I've been involved with CCL Pacific Territories. I'm now the liaison for Guam, and I've been engaging with local climate action groups and leaders on the island in an attempt to have constituents involved in our lobbying efforts. Guam is my original home, so this work has extra special meaning for me.
So you can see that, just like Ron opened up opportunities for Noel to get involved. Now Noel is doing a similar thing with his opportunities. And I love that he is now reaching out to members, to people on Guam. He's actually working with a youth climate action team on Guam. So very, very exciting to have constituents in our Pacific Island territories. So it's important to us that we involve and include as many people from as many walks of life as possible. Climate change doesn't discriminate on the basis of anything, as we know. So we want to be sure to have as many constituent voices as possible for asking for effective climate action. I do want to mention, though, that we know that there are some people that are more quickly and more impacted by climate change sooner. So I just want to make sure. So in some ways it discriminates and in some ways it doesn't, right? So we have 3 distinct groups that we'd like to include more in the work that we do. Concerned conservatives are often looking for rational voices and sound policy that they can support. All members of Citizens Climate Lobby can help find and recruit them. According to Yale and George Mason University, which I'll drop this link right there, 52% of Republicans surveyed in 2018 thought that global warming was happening. 52%. 36% of these thought it was mostly caused by humans. And 40% of Republicans surveyed were either somewhat or very worried about global warming. So there are conservatives living near us who are concerned about climate change. One goal of our outreach is to find those concerned conservatives and encourage them to turn their concern into constructive action. And there are a number of opportunities for reaching out to conservatives who are concerned about climate. Most successful will be people you already know already, like your dad or your uncle or your coworker and so forth. Youth are an ever-growing part of CCL, and as more and more youth under 18 become involved, our National Youth Action Team is helping to create, that is our Youth Action Team, helping to create a vibrant and powerful interconnected youth network across the country. All youth may join and access CCL community in the same way as adults, and the Youth Action Team facilitates this process. They are focused on supporting youth under 18 to be active, engaged, and empowered in building political will for climate solutions. I want to speak to that question that somebody asked in the chat earlier. If you are under 18, you can start a chapter, but you need an adult advisor to start a chapter with you. But youth can actually start youth action teams, and they are just as effective as chapters, sometimes more effective. In fact, the Washington State Youth CCL team is probably one of the most effective and professional teams that I've ever encountered in CCL. Perhaps even more, the work that they're doing is on par with business climate leaders. So very, very impressive. So the team has developed a ton of materials, the Youth Action Team, to provide some guidance and support for youth and their adult allies, including the Adult-Focused Youth Outreach and Engagement Guide, and the more youth-focused Youth Leader Action Toolkit. So there's that link there too. So this toolkit was written specifically for youth who are stepping into leadership and helps youth leaders start, grow, and sustain a youth team in their area, and to take action and connect with resources and opportunities for youth in CCL. So there are also youth subgroups and action teams and subcommittees, like I told you about the Washington State team. There are some legal considerations for minors' participations in CCL, but all of that can be found on CCL Community. So people often talk about the importance of diversifying an organization, but to be clear, when we talk about diversity, we're really talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI. Diversity refers to the existence of differences within a group of people. Equity refers to the fair distribution of power and benefits. And inclusion means the ability of different people to raise their perspectives authentically in a diverse group. I'll just drop that in there because I know that was kind of a mouthful. Diversifying the climate movement is an important priority for all environmental groups, and as an organization, it is one of our 7 core values. You can find that online. I'll actually drop that in here because I'm not going to read this value right now, just in the interest of time, but diversity is important to us as an organization. So there are lots of resources available about diversity, and again, the interactive training will have all of this training, all of the links that I've shared, and then some. So let me check my timing here. Oh, I'm going to keep on going. I'm going to keep on going through running a chapter, and then we'll see how much time we have for questions. So running a chapter is, a bit different than starting and growing a chapter. As with other aspects of leadership, the way a chapter is run depends in large part upon the group leader or leaders and the type of group they have and in what stage of development the group is in. So group leaders with larger, more established chapters, for example, will serve somewhat of a different role than those group leaders with smaller chapters who are just getting started. But the following checklist provides an overview of what's involved in running and maintaining an active CCL chapter. So in our monthly meeting, we gather to do 4 things. We educate ourselves, we celebrate, we practice, and we take action. And while it's not a requirement, incorporating the above aspects into every monthly gathering makes for a well-rounded meeting experience that attracts multiple personality types and learning styles. And when meeting online, you might want to make use of the breakout rooms, for example, for practicing laser talks or communication exercises in partners or small groups. You might use the chat to encourage people to share actions they've taken since last month and invite a few people to share a few stories. So this again is an area where we encourage group leaders to bring their ideas, their perspectives, and their individual style to the table. One of the beautiful things about CCL and the multiple chapters we have, despite the similarities in how chapter meetings are planned and run, each chapter is different, and we appreciate and encourage that. There's a great deal of guidance and support once you get to the point where you're ready to start meeting regularly. In regards to planning your meeting, it can be helpful to use the monthly action sheet, which Debbie might drop into the chat for you. That provides guidance for you as group leader, as well as action opportunities and meeting activities for your members during and after your meeting. And using the action sheet not only helps guide you as a group leader, but it can help support your volunteers in feeling like they're part of the larger organization, which is a really helpful concept when working on an immense issue like climate change. In addition, there are group development and organizing resources on CCL Community. It's a whole topic page and a number of trainings that are specifically designed for group leaders seeking support around running their chapters. So as a group leader, you can find support and guidance, not only from CCL as an organization, but also from chapter members themselves. There's really just no need to do all the work yourself. Others want to help. They just need easy opportunities to be able to contribute. So being supported matters, right? Think about a time in your life, CCL or otherwise, when you felt supported by others. What did that support do for you? How did it make you feel? What did it inspire you to do or be? We have the opportunity to inspire and motivate others through the leadership that we offer to our chapter. People will look to us for support. They will want to know if this organization offers them what they need and want from their climate contribution. And when we're able to support them in the way that they need, they will stick around and contribute to effective climate action. And naturally, support looks different for everyone. So you just want to consider, how do different people need support, right? Some people need a lot of structure. Some people need a lot of community building. And so if you can spread these things out across your chapter, then you're going to be able to be more available to different personality types in your chapter and be more attractive to them. I just want to touch very briefly on administration. Naturally, administration is a part of any well-run group, particularly one that's focused on creating opportunities for actions for volunteers. So volunteers want to understand what to expect. They want to know they need to be communicated with through emails, through text, through phone calls. So naturally, there are systems that you want to create, but there's support for all of this. And if you hate that part of the job, I hated that part as group leader. So that's why I got a co-leader or two, because I wanted to just facilitate the meetings. I didn't want to do all of the behind the scenes stuff. So figure out what works for you and then find people to support you in that. So, each group leader is going to have things that are awesome and things that are challenging in the process of group leading, right? Like no task comes without the natural highs and lows. And naturally those highs and lows will differ from person to person. But there are some understandable highs and lows that I just want to mention. It's amazing when things are going well and people show up to your meeting and their actions demonstrate that they're having a good time. And when they come back again and again, and it feels like you're in the groove, right? But it's really can be challenging when leaders feel over their heads, or they feel like it's all up to them, or they feel confused about why people aren't coming. Or, and I will say this from personal experience, when you take it personally that people are not coming to your meeting, when you think it's because of you or something that you've done, that's very, very hard as a group leader, right? So whatever it takes, just get that off your plate. Don't take it personally. Do therapy, do collaborative support, whatever it takes, right? Just see if you can avoid feeling that it's all your fault that people aren't coming. So you've just taken in a lot. Here are the key takeaways. We're about to wrap things up. Just around starting a chapter, just figure out what's best for you. And there's a ton of support that's available for you. I really, really want to hone support. That's why we started that way. And that's why I want to end this way, is that there is support for whatever you need support around. In regards to growing a chapter, the most powerful and effective way is to just really share your passion. So figure out what your passion is, block out the rest when you're talking to people, and share that with people. And then in regards to running a chapter, there are multiple skill sets. If you can avoid having to do it all yourself, great. And that can sometimes take time, right? But sometimes just start off with co-leadership. Sometimes inviting people to do something temporarily, as opposed to saying, hey, will you be my co-leader forever and ever and ever? That's intimidating. If you do have any questions, the fastest place you're going to get an answer is on our community forums, community.citizensclimate.org/forums. If you want to reach out to me for any other reason, I would love to support you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Citizens Climate Lobby's training program. You can tune into more episodes anywhere podcasts are available. Inspired by what you heard today? Join Citizens Climate Lobby to advocate for bipartisan climate solutions. Go to community.citizensclimate.org to find more trainings, resources, your local chapter, national action teams, discussion forums, and more. Be sure to like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter and Instagram @CitizensClimate. We also invite all of our listeners to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more inspiration. And together, we are creating the political will for a livable world.